Hello, fellow thinkers and ponderers of the world. This is probably better. My name's Braden Howe, and I'll keep the intro brief because there's just some things I wanted to talk about. And yeah, that's actually the whole intro. But I've been really transformed recently by a certain philosophical idea, and I wanted to just share its profound impact on me and my worldview, because it has fundamentally completely changed and reshaped, reframed. I'm trying to get a good grip on this phone without covering up the audio device, the speaker. But basically what that philosophical teaching idea comes out to be is the idea of the absurd. And this was made popular by Albert Camus. I've been reading some of his works of literature, specifically The Stranger, The Outsider. The title kind of varies depending on language, I think, but that doesn't really make sense because I've seen English books of the same print, but I digress. And that's not really, no, it is to do with the absurd, but it's not probably his most poignant example of it. Obviously, his philosophical teachings address the subject in a far more direct and clear way, where he's actually speaking on it, and it's not through a story, which obviously humans learn best through stories, so it's probably more effective seeing it demonstrated in an example of real life. But I digress. So basically what the absurd is, and I'm sure everybody's kind of heard of it or can come to guess what it is when talking about philosophy, because absurdity is just nonsensical, but that's what it is. That's the idea that life inherently is completely and unapologetically absurd and crazy, and it's a beautiful thing, honestly. Like, it makes me, I always felt like I was kind of playing this character in my life, I guess, and I had to do this or I had to do that, and oh my God, like, all these pressures and stuff. And I've never been overtly religious, but I'd say for a majority of my life I did believe in either a higher power or some type of mysticism. But I'm at the point now where I just can't wrap my head around it anymore. I really can't do it. I've tried to be the follower of a religion or whatever, but it's philosophical suicide in the most fundamental sense for me, because it's just, I just can't believe in it. I can't come to terms with the fact. I just can't lower myself to the idea that there is this omnipotent being or this higher elucidatory thing that fundamentally gives any law to the universe. There's Sam. Say hi, Sam. He's beautiful. Great guy. You would love him. But I just can't wrap my head around the fact that there's some kind of meaning or reasoning behind everything. Everyone's always like, well, everything happens for a reason, Braden. Trying to kind of upheave me. But for me, it's like, everything does happen. Things happen. There's just no reason. I really believe that. So in coming to understand that, I'm like, well, why the fuck am I even stressing about anything in life if fundamentally at the end of the day it doesn't really matter anyways, right? And you can take this idea in several different directions. You could be pushed towards complete and utter despair and nihilism due to the fact, because one could argue from that disposition, well, if there's no meaning for life, then why am I living it? Like, why do anything? But for me, it's so freeing. It's kind of like, what is it like? Just being able to let go of all the bullshit. All the things that I've given time and effort and energy and thought into, that at the end of the day, I don't even fucking enjoy, but I felt condemned to do it by societal pressures or expectations, or just unconscious trained behavior, and I'm able to just let go of everything and kind of reevaluate what actually matters to me. Because if nothing matters objectively, at that point you'd be free to create your own meaning in life. And that's what I've done through it all. But it's just, I can't stress this enough. And this video is not gonna suddenly change your life or really probably bring you any closer to this worldview at all. I'm just presenting the profound effect it's had on me. I've, for at least 2 years since I really started looking into the philosophical teachings and everything of that nature, and just different ideas regarding life, big picture shit, like real deep, profound ideas. I've known about absurdism, I've known about existentialism and all this, but it's taken me at least 2 years to really observe it in my own life and sit with it and digest it and just work through all my problems. And at the end of the day, I find myself at this point where I can honestly say that it's just the natural conclusion to my current thought train. And it'll probably change, who knows, in like 5 years I might be getting on here like preaching to you about Jehovah and how he's going to come down in a spaceship and save everybody. Who knows? I don't know. Beliefs are funny in that way. But right now, I think it's rare to embrace absurdity as I have. I think a lot of people probably fall into that idea and that belief that everything is kind of meaningless inherently, fundamentally, objectively. And then they go into despair. But for me, it was the most freeing thing. It was like I had been so clenched up my whole life. I felt like walking on eggshells when even nobody was around, because I felt like I had to be this certain way. There was a fundamental way of doing things, and I had to comply with it like Big Brother was watching me or something. Great book, 1984. But now it's just like, who cares, man? It's like, I was listening to the Beatles. I think that this is like the best representation in song form for this idea. Is the idea of the nowhere man. He's sitting in his nowhere land, making his nowhere plans for nobody. It's like just complete contentness, because why would I choose not to be content? And that's another idea I've came upon in the approachment of the major idea of absurdity is, well, why, if nothing matters, why the fuck would I choose to not just enjoy myself and find humor and light and enjoyment in essentially everything I do? Why would I actively choose to be upset or let things bother me when I, as far as I understand it, believe that it doesn't matter one way or the other, objectively. But subjectively, I believe that we are, at that point, in our own power, in our own facilities, and in our own right to make our own importance, give our life meaning, and taking that power from institutions and nations and all these fucking systems that in reality don't give a fuck about you and are probably just serving to control you in some way. Certainly it limits the thought and the idea and the imagination and even the will, the free will, if free will is even real, which I don't even know if that's true. And I would like to do a video on that soon. And in saying all this, I want to recognize I'm a 20-year-old, like, green as hell, just person in general. I don't have a lot of experiences. I'm not this walker of the earth that has seen just crazy things in my life and really had to deal with a whole lot. I've been I've lived a chill life. I'm a chill guy. I actually won an award for that one time. But I just figured I'd give my 2 cents on the subject. I've definitely, like, all that, I'm probably downplaying a little bit my life. I have had my struggles and my mountains that I had to climb and overcome. And through all of that, I do feel like I've learned something, and I think it's within everyone's right to share what they've learned. I think you have to. I think that's the final process of the growth, is you don't know anything, you go through hell, you learn something, and you apply that thing, and then you also teach that thing, or at least share that thing with others. That's how we grow from each other in a fundamental way, and that doesn't have to be through speech. It could be through art, it could be through expression, in literally any way that you feel captures that idea or that theme. And moving on to that, like I said, I was essentially left with no point of existence, no highest value. I think that we need some form of value that is fundamental and essentially unchanging until you change it. Like something that you can grasp onto for, well, in essentially any situation, and be like, yeah, this is why I get up, or this is why I'm doing this, even though I might not like doing this. And for me, I've just become, I've started to conceptualize life. And follow me here, because I think you'll probably be like, that's fucking stupid. I don't know what you'll be like. I'm sorry for being a hater on you. Who knows? You might really resonate with this idea. And I don't think it's a new idea, but it's an idea I did personally, naturally discover in the discourse of me and myself and I and my brain. But all that to say, I've started to conceptualize life as art. I think whenever I am committed to this ground in which I walk upon today, which will happen, I will die. That's something I remind myself of every day. When I commit myself to that ground, I think my great work of art will be my life in general. It will be what I did, how I approached the world, and how I impacted it through my ideas, through my own creation, through every single event and every single action I ever took. That's the great art. And for me, that's the ultimate affirmation of life itself, because I imagine anybody that has seriously looked into the endeavor and attempted to ever create a piece of art, there's something fundamentally deep about creating something new that is a complete original work of you. Something didn't exist and you put that into existence. I think that is so, that has to be like the most important thing for us humans. I think it's just, and what did I just do? I said, oh, don't listen to institutions or other people's worldview about things, and then I'm trying to generalize this. For me, there's no higher task, there's no more honorable action in life than the action of creation. And I walk in the valley of creation, painting flowers as I go. And I truly believe that life is this art, and thus I'm encouraged in every moment and every day to try and bring out my all into it, to allow it to speak for itself, to allow it to be an original production of myself and not some shitty copy of someone else's material that's uninspired. I mean, you can feel it. You can feel it in certain great works of art. You can feel it in certain songs and certain painting pieces and certain band performances. Like, you can just, and that was a very like limited scope. It, obviously art essentially applies to everything, and in my opinion. So like, you can just feel when someone puts their all into something. Art is that window into the soul. And I want my life to just be a huge window into my soul. I don't want to hide anything. I don't want to adopt this mentality of, oh, I'm a man, I can't show emotions. Oh, I have to push things down. That's not me. And I've never cared to not wear my heart on my sleeve. Well, actually, I did for a long time. I was definitely scared and afraid of showing any type of emotion or being vulnerable in any way. But now it's just like, since I've abandoned that idea and I'm walking in this valley of art and creation, it's like I have to put everything into every moment of being, because this is life. This is life. This is my great work of art. And I want it to reflect who I am as a person. I want to be this harbinger of beauty. At least beauty as I see it. But art and the growth of the individual, those are the two highest prizes, the highest priorities for me, because I've given them to myself. And this really went in a weird direction, but we're going to anchor it back to absurdism, sorry. When I realized that I had the ability to just say no to society, say no to morality in the traditional terms and these institutions, and I found what really mattered to me, that being art, creation, and growth, I feel like I'm reborn. I feel like for the first time in my entire life, I'm living, and I'm living my life. I've lived others' lives, and something never felt quite right. But now, man, I'm free. I'm free to do whatever I want to do. And that's beautiful. And I'm not perfect with it. There's times when I revert back to thinking of the past and I get bogged down in other people's thoughts for me. Big thing for me would be loneliness. But then I kind of rebound and realize, loneliness is probably a product of being different. When you're different, when you take that bold step to step out of the bounds and the lines that society has set up very carefully, society a lot of the times is just not going to play ball with that. It's not what they understand to be right. And, a lot of people nowadays, I feel like they don't really do that reflection of who they are or why they like this or why they like that. They just know that a certain behavior leads to a desirable outcome, even though that desirable outcome is ultimately completely superficial and kind of meaningless and irrelevant in terms of, I guess it depends what you value. If you value the material world to such an extreme extent, and status and power and money, which are all conjurations of the mind, everything's a conjuration of the mind, I suppose, then that's great for you, I guess. Keep conforming and keep figuring out what works, but I just can't do it. I've tried to sell my soul a couple of times, and I feel bad saying that now, and I almost lost myself completely through certain ideologies and certain behaviors, because I just so badly wanted to be not alone. And I don't mean aloneness in the sense that, I have no friends or anything. I have a lot of great and amazing family and friends that I love so much, and I'm so thankful for. But I just mean alone in that feeling of just not being understood. And I'm sure a lot of people do get that, but that at night especially, it's just like sometimes I'll say to myself, it's like, if only people could see, man, if only they could understand what I'm about. And then I realize, well, I don't even know what I'm actually about. But yes, sorry, I've gone on this tangent again. Loneliness has been something that I've really been battling recently, but I don't think it has to inherently be a bad thing. I think in those moments of loneliness and self-reflection, I come to the most profound and beautiful thought. And I discover a lot about myself in those moments. And I discover that I don't know what I discovered yet. I'm still trying to discover it. It's an ongoing process, just like life and just like these thoughts that are certainly subject to change. But I hope that anybody that is watching this was able to follow my train of thought. I know it can be very scattered at times. I'm using this just kind of as a way to capture certain thoughts and tangents without having to write them all down. I'm a big writer too, but I want to be able to develop my explanation of life in a more verbal and fluid way, if that would make any sense. It's not so rehearsed and everything. And I talk my friends' ears off about some of these subjects a lot, and probably not what you're expecting to get out of a hangout with the boys exactly. And that's fine. I understand that. So, now you can be my friend and you can listen to all of my pressing existential problems and how I try to solve them in my own special way. Even though, obviously all thought is inspired by previous thought. But thank you very much for watching. I hope that you have a wonderful day.